Hey everyone, it's Rogue from Final Turn. Today I'm going to be doing a deck profile on my Year Chronicle deck that I ran alongside Tristan and Pedro at Team League. Altogether we went 3-3. I myself went 3-3 collectively with the deck, losing to Lambros twice and OTT once. Deck did fairly consistent. Actually, it's an extremely consistent deck in that sense, but against OTT, the hand advantage in them being able to search out what they wanted just kind of failed in that sense because I couldn't rush fast enough. And against Lambros, it failed because, well, the clan itself isn't too great at taking rushes, and at grade 2, and then with Lambros, just Aqua Forces, they're a force to reckon with. So yeah, let's get into the deck profile. My starter is Brasswing Gearhawk. If you guys don't know what he is, he's the new starter from GB02. He's got Forerunner. His ability is GB1. When your opponent's rearguard is put into his or her deck due to an effect from your cards, it gets plus 5,000 until the end of turn. This stacks much like Bruno does. It's great on turns where you're just sending stuff back like crazy. The only problem I do have is it's not a grade 3 searcher. I know I personally just really like grade 3 searchers because you do have your optimal rides, and then if you're getting raid locked, and then on top of that, the grade 3 searcher serves as a good resource if you put them in soul. Even if you have your grade 3, if it whiffs, whatever, if you do have a grade 3, it searches out a potential stride fodder. Especially in a retire heavy meta, it just becomes, this guy becomes dead sometimes because he's killed off, first few turns. Can't use his skill, ends up being, but if you use a grade 3 searcher, it just ends up being a good resource, if nothing else. Okay. So for my trigger lineup, I run, let's see, 4 Heart Thump Worker. This is the new double rare crit trigger for Gear Chronicle. Sorry. His skill is if you put him into your soul, when your Vanguard attacks, you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Chronojet in its card name. You may pay the cost. If you do draw a card, choose one of your Vanguards and gets plus 5,000 until the end of battle. This is just a solid card for resources. Like I said, works great because you put him in soul. You could use him for Persia Ill, which is who I do run in the deck. Good draw, and just pump it for power. I don't use him as much as I thought I would in terms of his skill, just because late game when I do have him in hand, I want to save him for guard. But there's been a few times where it works out pretty well. And then I also run 4 Steam Battler Data Sig. Just this is the crit from the trial deck. I run 4 heal. Nothing special about that. It's the only heal we have, Luru. And I run 4 of the Lucky Pot Draco Kid. This is the Margle clone. You put him into your soul, choose up to one of your Gear Chronicles, and it gets plus 3,000 until the end of turn. Great again when you're like pumping up a Ragnar Clock with the Silent Tom skill, or a Chronojet with the Glory skill. Some people have suggested that I run 12 crit. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, it's good in the sense that when you're hitting with Ragnar Clock, it's just going to force out more guard if they don't have a PG, but then if they have a PG, it's dead anyway. And you need the draw power of the deck because there really isn't too much in the deck. Alright, so that's it for the grade 0s. On to the grade 1s. I run 4 Steam Maiden Arlem. This is the G Perfect guard, the Unflipper. Mostly because the X has sort of died down in the sense that you don't see him too much. Our locals, there's no one that plays him. So there's no sense in needing something that protects the rear guards until the Ace comes out, because, well, it's going to bring the X back. And you need the Unflip because it is sort of a counterblast heavy deck. I run 4 of the Stride Fodder, Steam Breath Dragon. If you guys don't know what he does, he's a Chronojet searcher. If you have a grade 3 in hand, you drop one, and then he's a stride fighter, so he acts as a grade 3. In a stride heavy deck, you need 4 of these guys. There's no reason to not run 4. I run 3 of the new promo Steam Fighter Meshi. Some people like him at 4. I personally like him at 3. His ability is GB1 once per turn. You Soul Blast 1. When your opponent's rear guard is put into his or her deck due to an effect from one of your cards, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose a card from your damage zone and turn it face up. I like using him with Boost and Amber because for 1 Soul Blast, you end up sending something back from deck because it negates the counter blast for Amber. And then rounding up the grade 1, I run 3 Summit Crest Gearwolf. This is the Bruno clone for Gear Chronicles in the sense when you rewind something, he gets +3. Just great all-around card because, you know, we do rewind a lot of stuff in this deck. Onto the grade 2s. I run 4. He's a must at 4, Steam Fighter Amber. His skill is GB1. When this unit attacks Vanguard, if this unit is boosted, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guard, and your opponent puts it on the bottom of his or her deck. So, like I said, if you put him a Steam Fighter Meshi behind him, it ends up being 4 Soul Blast 1, Rewind 1. This guy's a must because there are cards you have to run him at 4, at least in my build, because there are so many cards that rely on something being rewound, like the starter, Summon Crest Gearwolf, and the next grade 2 we'll get into. I run 2 Steam Maiden Ishin. This is the new Silent Tom for the clan, for the grade 2s. Her skill, is GB1, counterblast 1. When your opponent's rear guard is put into his or her deck due to an effect from one of your cards, you may pay the cost. If you do until the end of turn, this unit gets, when it attacks a Vanguard, until the end of battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0s to hand. Some people like it at 4. I personally like a split between this and Persia Ill because resource management. Some people like Maxtail Persia Ill, but like I said, if you're running 4 Persia Ill, you're really not going to get the effect off too much. And then with Fate Rider, you could search these 2 out, so 2 and 2 is good because, yeah, you could search them out with Fate Rider on those turns, and then on top of that, just with resource management, you don't want to use too many counterblasts or too many soul blasts, because, especially the counterblast, because you, it's a counterblast heavy deck, and the soul blast, you just run out of soul fast. So, I run 2 of the Steam Knight, Persia Illy. Soul Blast 2, when it attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 0s from hand to Guardian Circle. And then rounding up the grade 2s, I run 3 Steam Knight Zhang. I really actually don't like this card. I only run him because he's the mate to Nixie, who I run in the deck, and that's why I don't run him at 4. I don't think it's a good card at all. You counterblast 1 when his attack hits a Vanguard. If your Vanguard is in Legion, you pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards, and your opponent puts it on the bottom of his or her deck. I just think that the restriction of needing to be in Legion is what really hurts him. I guess on hit, rewind for counterblast 1 wouldn't be terrible if it didn't require the Legion. So yeah, he's definitely not something I want to run at 4 of. I even don't mind riding into him if I have to. He's the grade 2 that I most optimally like to ride into. On to my grade 3s. I run 4 Nixie Number Dragon. This is the new Legion from GBt02. His skill is Legion. When your opponent's rear guard is put into his or her deck due to an effect from one of your cards, if it's in Legion, until the end of that turn, this unit gets when this unit attacks Vanguard until the end of that battle, your opponent cannot call grade 1s or greater from hand to Guardian Circle. So you just get the Glory Skill. And when he attacks, he gets another +3 if you have another unit in the middle. All around, really solid Legion. Like I said, you need Amber to fuel this guy, and then you're just hitting for great numbers. Great card. He's really good late game after you've strode a few times, strode, whatever it is. After you've stride a few times, and you're running thin on deck, Legion into him, put some crits back, game. And then rounding up the grade 3s, I run your mandatory 4 Chronojet Dragon. He's the trump card, he's the boss card, you know, main character, trump card. GBt02, when he attacks a Vanguard until the end of that battle, he gets +5000 and he gains the Glory Skill. He's also really good with for fueling cards like Ishin and the Gearhawk and Summit Crest, because when he's stridden over, you kind of lost one and you return a rear guard. You rewind an opponent's rear guard, so that's really good. So that's it for the main deck. For my Stride deck, I run one Lost Age, interdimensional Lost Age Dragon. He's an on-hit. When an attack hits a Vanguard, choose one of your opponent's rear guards. Your opponent puts it into the bottom of his or her deck. Great first Stride. I only run one Chronos Command, so interdimensional Chronos Command Dragon. Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, and choose a card from your hand and discard it. When an attack hits a Vanguard, you may pay the cost. If you do, your opponent puts all of his or her rear guards on the bottom of his or her deck. It is a solid card in the sense that it could put a lot of pressure, but you only want to run one of him because it's just a costly skill. Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 1, that's killing your resources that you need. And getting his effect off doesn't really happen as much as you'd think it would. It's more of a bluff or scare tactic if your opponent forces out more guard or that PG so that next turn you can ride into Ragnarok. I run two of the new Stride from GBt02, Interdimensional Dragon, Fate Rider Dragon. This guy's a tank of a card. When I first heard about him, I didn't really understand the hype behind him, but now that I've play tested using him, I've used him a bunch of times, I absolutely love him. His skill is once per turn, choose one of your rear guards, put it into the bottom of your deck, search your deck for up to one card that is a grade greater than that unit, call it to rear guard, shuffle your deck, choose one of your units for each face-up card in your G-zone, and they get plus 3,000 until the end of turn. There was some questioning about this skill in the sense that people thought that you were choosing one. I even thought this at first. When you call out that new rear guard, you give him plus 3,000 and it stacks. So you would give one unit plus, let's say if you strode into Ragnarok twice already, you'd have 4 face-up cards that would get plus 12. No, you give, let's say you have 4 rear guards and 4 face-up, they each get plus 3,000. If you only have 3 face-up in your G-zone, you would only give 3 rear guards plus 3,000. It doesn't stack. It'd be too good if it stacked, but still a great card. And rounding up my Stride zone and my grade 4s, I run 4 Interdimensional Dragon Ragnarok. Ragnarok is still the... Alright, so it's not really the win condition of the deck anymore, the way I've built it, but he gives a lot of that pressure, and people still fear playing him because he's getting that Silent Hom and that plus crit. Still my favorite card in the game all around. Not much to say about him other than that he's great. So yeah, that was my build. If you guys have any questions or comments on it, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the deck profile. I'd like to hear how you guys built your deck, either differently or similarly. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, guys.